interested in the effects of fetal alcohol syndrome and how that can impact a person, particularly as they develop into adulthood, then I think you'll really enjoy Can I Let You Go. It's certainly very fascinating from that angle. Honestly, I prefer Cathy Glass's books when she's looking after a child, which is most of the time. This is certainly a different story, and I didn't dislike it. I've read it twice now. I'm reading them chronologically this time. But certainly I don't like it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I do most of her other books. But it's still well written. In Can I Let You Go, Cathy is actually looking after a 24-year-old woman called Faye. Faye has fetal alcohol syndrome because her mother was an alcoholic when she was pregnant, and it turns out that Faye herself is pregnant, and Faye lives with her elderly grandparents, and they're just kind of struggling to cope with everything and taking Faye to appointments and making sure that everything's kind of done on time. So they get, I guess, respite care, and Cathy is going to look after Faye until she has the baby. It seems like Faye is aware that she is pregnant, but she's very much in denial about it. And it seems that she has the level of intelligence to kind of understand what that means, but at the same time she seems to be not saying very much. So it's very difficult for Cathy to kind of engage with Faye and to get her to talk about the pregnancy. And that also means that if there are any complications, or if Faye is feeling unwell or anything, it's very difficult for Cathy to look after her properly if she's not willing to talk about it. There's also the question of how on earth did this happen? Faye's grandparents never let her out of their sight. She does use the bus by herself, but usually there's somebody at either bus stop. So there is a mystery element, and I could remember from the first time I read it exactly what that mystery was. I will say it's not that fascinating, but certainly I won't say what it is. I don't want to ruin it completely. The title, Can I Let You Go, obviously suggests that maybe not everything develops within the narrative as one might expect. So it certainly is very well written. I'm going to assume that this is how the true story went. These are of course based on truth, but you have to bear in mind that things are changed to protect the identity of the people mentioned. But it did, I remember the first time reading it, it did take a direction I wasn't necessarily expecting. So it is quite interesting. But again, it just feels like quite a different book to what I'm used to with Cathy Glass's other books, because she's not looking after a child with behavioural issues. She's not looking after a child who has been neglected. Certainly Faye, for all intents and purposes, seems to be well cared for, well brought up by her grandparents. There's no irate parents yelling and shouting at her at contact. It's definitely a very different book. Not a bad thing, but just something to bear in mind. I didn't mind rereading it the second time, or reading it the second time. But as I said, I could remember quite a lot from the first time, so maybe it wasn't as compelling as it could have been. Definitely, if you're interested in the effects of fetal alcohol syndrome on adults, I think it's something you'll find very interesting. I have a relative interest in that, but it's not one of my areas of research interest over certain others. But I enjoyed it well enough. Can I Let You Go is definitely worth a read, but I wouldn't suggest starting with it if you're new to Cathy Glass's books.